Hi there. Are you trying to use Looker Studio and trying to figure out the best ways to use this software? Well, I'm going to walk you through my 5 favorite tools in Looker Studio. So, hi there. My name is Carolyn O'Brien, and I help online business owners and coaches and course creators better understand their metrics and data in order to improve their business. So, let's dive in so I can show you my 5 favorite tools within Looker Studio. The date range control. So this is the date range control up here, and I'm going to go into edit mode so I can show you exactly what this looks like. So there's a couple of different ways to think about this. This is really helpful when you want to compare data from one period of time to another. So if you're in edit mode and you click on the date range control, you would actually, to show you how to add it, you would go to add a control, and then date range control right here. I already have one on this example dashboard. And then over here, the date range control properties setup, this is where you would choose the default date range. So this is what it's going to be every single time you go into view mode, every single time you reload the dashboard, you reopen it. This is going to be the default. So as you can see, you can set it to last week starts Monday. You can set it to a fixed period of time. Today, yesterday, obviously only use these if you have more real-time data coming in so that they're accurate. You can do this quarter to date, last quarter to date, this year to date, etc. So there's a ton of different options here. So in view mode right now, I have it set to be this year to date, and it's going to give me a great summary of what all of my sales, revenue, lead data is for this year to date. Now, you may notice that this does not have the full year, right? And that's because I have these set up differently for a reason. I have the graph set up to be last quarter. You could also change it to be this quarter if that was more relevant for you. So the reason why is because I may want to see these items to be this year to date, but I want to see trends over time in graphs. So there may be some components, some graphs, some charts in your dashboard that you don't want to set up to be controlled by the date range control. And you would just be able to override that by setting it to custom and then choosing whatever date range you wanted. So in order for it to be controlled by the date range control, all you need to do is you click on the component. You can highlight multiple components at once too, if you wanted to do that. And then you would just make sure that the default date range is set to auto. So auto means it's set by the date range control if there is a date range control on your dashboard. So I love being able to compare these back and forth. Maybe we wanted to do view mode, and then I'm going to go ahead and change this. So because I'm in view mode, I'm not actually changing the default date range. I'm just changing it in view mode. And I want to do last quarter. So as you can see, let me do last month. There we go. So I don't have any data in for last month, which is why it's showing no data, but this did not change because I had that set by default. So let's do a fixed one and I can show you again. So maybe we'll do just for January. So I can show you again how it ends up changing. So there we go. You can see all the numbers that are controlled by the date range control changing. So my next feature that I love is just the customization that you're able to do within Looker Studio. So this sounds really simple, but when you customize colors to maybe your brand colors or a client's brand colors, that really is the whole purpose of a dashboard, is to make data and numbers visually appealing and easy to understand. So I'm going to go in and go into edit mode, and I'm going to fix this date to ascending, and I'm going to show you how I can change the colors here. So if I go into the data sidebar and I click style, I'm going to go and I can change this kind of yellow color to, let's just do blue so you can see it, right? So my series 1 here, that's looking at refunds. Those are the graph lines here, the bars. And then the black is refunds, but I could change that black to be something else as well. So I'm going to be series 2, it's set as a line, and I can change that to purple, let's say. And you can see that the purple changes down here. You can also do a bunch of different things. You can change the background of a graph if that's something you wanted to do. I do try to keep a lot of white space or as much as possible on the dashboard just because I do think it makes it easier to read. But you could change these as well. You can highlight multiple components at once and you can change them all at once also. So if I wanted to change this to a peach color or if I wanted to change it to a yellow color, right? Everything is customizable. And it is really important to make the dashboard something that you like to look at, that your clients like to look at, because it's just going to make it easier to review and understand the data. My next one is the combo chart. So I love using a combo chart, and this is an example here. So here, combo chart, I love it because it allows you to do bar graphs and line graphs on one graph. And that is really helpful when you're looking at different types of information. So this is a great example, right? We have the bar graph for dollar amount of refunds, and we have the line for number of refunds. But what you can do is you can have multiple axes. So for the bar, right, the axis that I'm using is on the left, right? You can see it here. And now I want to change this because I want to keep this as a line graph, but I want to put this axis on the right, right? So now you can see it changes, and this is the right axis now. And that makes a little bit more sense than having just a flat line, because they really are viewed in different number ranges for certain metrics. So in this example, it's dollar refund and number of refunds. But other examples I use combo charts a lot are number of sales or revenue and conversion rates, right? Because conversion rate of a page or a sales conversion would be in a percent. And so the percent axis would look very different than a revenue axis or a number of sales. So that's an example where I use that a lot. The other thing you can do is you can hide the data labels if you wanted to, right? So if you really wanted to focus on the number of refunds instead of the dollar amount, you could do that, or you could do the reverse too, and you could hide the data labels for one of them. And then one thing to keep in mind, when you're in view mode, you can always hover over and get all of the data points. So depending on how much data you have or how many data points there are in one component, you can choose to hide or show those data labels. Another feature that I love using within Looker is the GA4 connection. So Looker is a Google product, GA4 is clearly a Google product, and so they work really well together. So Google Analytics is a very robust software. There's a ton of data in there, and sometimes there's too much data. So I often like to either pull data from Google Analytics for a specific dashboard. In this example, it's looking at just website analytics, or you can pull it for maybe the funnel. So maybe you just want to pull page view data for certain pages within a funnel, so you're not manually tracking that information, but it's still showing up in your dashboard, and you're able to combine it with data from other sources. And so I find that really helpful for funnels specifically. And so how to add Google Analytics is, I'm going to show you in this one just to show you where you would go. So if you're in Edit, you want to do Add Data, Google Analytics, and then you just want to make sure you're logged into your account where your Google Analytics account is, or where you have access to it. And then it would show up right here, and you just go ahead and click Connect. So in this example, I don't have one set up for this demo account, but they would show up here for whatever Google Workspace account you're logged into here. In this example, right, I'm pulling in key pieces of information. So I'm pulling in active users, new users, engagement rate, an overall graph map to see where users are coming from, different referral sources for the active users, and then pages, right? So views, active users, and views per user for specific pages that this person wanted to keep track of. And my final favorite feature for Looker Studio is using Zapier to set up a purchase data zap to send it right into a Google Sheet and then into the dashboard. So this is just an example zap that is very simple setup, and these can be made more and more complex depending on what you need in your business, but this is a very simple setup, and I just want to show you. So this is for a product purchase in Thrivecart. So this is the Zap action as a product purchase. You can also set up one for refunds, for bump purchases, for upsell purchases. And then you format the date and time, because Zapier Thrivecart doesn't always show the date and time in a user-friendly format. And then I create a spreadsheet row in a Google Sheet that I already have set up. So the Google Sheet just has really standard purchase information. I'm not going to click in here because it has buyer information in here, but you could set up things like the name, the purchase date, the email, purchase price, if the upsell was purchased, right? All of these different features, metrics that you could track. And then you just zap the data from the Thrivecart purchase information, and you set up the zap to send each of those pieces of data points into the right column within Google Sheets. And then what you do is you just have the Google Sheet set up to your Looker dashboard, and then you have real-time purchase data coming in from Thrivecart. And like I mentioned earlier, you can set this up for rebills, for refunds, for upsell purchases, for bump purchases. So you really can automate a lot of this purchase data to have it sent directly into your dashboard so you can get a real-time look at your revenue numbers directly from the source. So in this example, it's Thrivecart, but you could set it up with other softwares as well. You could set it up with Samcart, Spiffy, Kajabi. So this is another one of my favorite features because it helps eliminate some of that manual data collection. So again, to recap, my favorite features are the date range control, which allows you to compare data across different time periods, customizing with different colors to make sure it works with your brand and it's something that's easy for you to read. The combo chart, where you can look at bar graphs and line graphs in one graph together. The GA4 connection, which allows you to pull in key information from Google Analytics and combine it with the other data into your dashboard directly. And then automating data collection for purchase data with Zapier. If you're looking for more resources or maybe some dashboard templates, then check out the links below the video. Thanks.